It's like it's kind of weird standing in the front of the stage and there's everybody's at the back of the room. Sorry? Too many screens. I know it means you can watch what's going on, but you can distance yourself away from me. Okay, this is going to be a short sort of summary, a bit about me, a bit about where I've been, what I've been doing, and hopefully, I think more interestingly, what we're working towards in the future. So I've been in the industry for a very long time, 40 years. So in that time, I've been fortunate enough to work at some very prestigious venues. Started, I think it was 1994, I managed to work at Southampton Football Club, and lucky opportunity to get through the door and start working there. Really, really good team to work with. I changed in 2007 to go to a school in Charterhouse in Surrey, which I'll talk a bit more on these in a bit as we go through the slides, but an incredible place to work. Very, very different from working to a stadium environment, but sports pitches, sport played to a high level. And then I got a call to would I be interested to go for an interview at Anfield. So I went in 2016 and worked for Liverpool Football Club for 6 years as their grounds manager. Currently, I left Liverpool to go and set up a training company and to build on some other bits and pieces. And then I got a phone call out of the blue to go and help out at Olympique Marseille. So currently, I'm working in France, helping out at Olympique Marseille. So I've had an opportunity to experience some different places around the world. It's been eventful. I've been lucky enough, started off at college many, many years ago. There's a little picture of me and my best friend selling Christmas trees off the back of a lorry, trying to earn a few pounds while we were building up a landscaping business. So it's gone on from there. I've been lucky enough. I was sat on the board of the GMA for 9 years, been involved in panel discussions, also been invited by the BBC, out of the blue. This was to defend Wembley. This is going back quite a few years now when Wembley were having some real problems with their pitch. And the media were brutal about the state of Wembley's pitch. Obviously, nobody from Wembley could go and talk, so I was asked by the GMA to talk on Wembley's behalf and try and defend how difficult it is to grow grass in a stadium the size of Wembley. Fortunately, Wembley managed to resolve their problems, and now it's an incredibly successful stadium. And then my time at Liverpool was really lucky. I was there for 6 years. Those 6 years, the manager was Jurgen Klopp, and we did win quite a bit of silverware. So I didn't really get any silverware when I was at Southampton Football Club, so it's kind of nice to be able to be there when a team has been so successful. And Jurgen Klopp was an incredible manager to work under. But it's not just about the people and the venues, it's the people you work with. I've had some great teams. That's my Southampton team there. There's a few faces in there some of you might recognise. There's Graham Mills, who's the current grounds manager there. There's myself, and also in the picture we've got Andy Gray, who is the grounds manager at St George's Park, and Carl Stanley, a very young Carl Stanley, who's the head groundsman at Wembley Stadium. So I'm kind of lucky that these guys came through with me and have gone on through to the next levels. I've put that one in there because it was a cheeky one. So we always have team photo on the pitch. So I just got cheeky one year and I just went, how come I never get in the team photo? So the manager says, come on, get in there. So I'm sat right in the centre, right behind you. It's hard to see me in there, but it's like, wow, I've actually made it to the team photo. Can't kick a ball to save my life, but I've actually made it to the team photo. Charterhouse School, great team of people there. There's a team of 15 people from various backgrounds with 3 Polish guys that we work with, were phenomenally hard workers and really keen to learn and understand more about our industry. And then the last photo was my last day at Liverpool Football Club. I've got actually my old Southampton team came back to meet me up there as well, so it's kind of nice, but I had my Liverpool staff and my ex-Southampton staff come to give me a send-off, and I disappeared off to Portugal. Now currently in Marseille, this is Marseille's training centre. Guys putting a bit of fertilizer down there. Formation, this is Dean's fault when Dean was there. Got everybody walking side by side, so yeah, but it's formation fertilizing, works really well. That's the staff at the velodrome. And this summer, I went out with FIFA to do the Club World Cup, and I was based at Seattle. So a great team of guys there. That was an artificial pitch that had been converted temporarily to be a natural grass pitch using a hybrid carpet. Incredibly difficult to manage because the root zone was effectively 7 centimetres. So, and there was no drainage and no irrigation. And we had, what did we have there? We had 6 games in 12 days. So it was basically match day -1, match day -1. Tough, but very good. Great to get through that. There we go. That's where it started a long time ago, 1994. I was kind of lucky that I was in the right place at the right time. The village I was living in, we had a manager, Laurie McMenemy, the ex-Southampton manager, and his garden was in the right state. So I went in, fixed his garden. Then he said to me one day, "We've just sacked the groundsman at the Dell. Would you be interested in going for an interview?" And fortunately for me, I got the job, and my career kicked off there. Very daunting, the first time you walk down those steps onto the pitch. My first home game was against Arsenal Football Club. So it's like, wow. And I'd never looked after a stadium pitch before, so it was like kind of like, right, thrown in at deep end. Just me, one pitch, very little equipment, very old pitch, very poor drainage. Fortunately, it was quite a nice open stadium, so we had quite a lot bit of light and air, but very, very challenging. In 2001, we moved to the St Mary's Stadium, and we doubled the capacity. The old stadium was 15,250, and the new one was 32,000. Back in the day, we were allowed to do fancy patterns on the pitch, so obviously that's all been stopped now, but yeah, you could be quite artistic and quite creative. And I kind of like that because it highlighted, it's aesthetics, it's all about playability, but it kind of highlighted that the groundsman, we were responsible for the pitch. The pitch nowadays, unfortunately, pretty much every pitch looks the same because we've got the same grass cover, the same mowing patterns, and you can't really differentiate one stadium from another just by looking at the grass. I left to Charterhouse School, and people go, "Why did you leave football to go to Charterhouse School?" But when you see Charterhouse School, I drove for the interview and I went through the gate and saw those buildings, and I just went, wow. Phenomenal. It looks like Harry Potter goes to school there. It's one of those places. It's absolutely incredible. And along with the school, there was a lot of grounds. So we had 110 hectares of grounds, 9-hole golf course. I was suddenly being thrown into golf, which was something I'd never worked with before. So it's kind of really interesting to learn how to manage the golf course. It's designed by Donald Steele, who's quite a renowned golf course architect. And it was a really nice course. But it was good. We had, I won't go into too much detail, but we had, 11 soccer fields, football fields. We had 9 cricket squares, got the running track on there. We had a lacrosse pitch. We had 1 rugby pitch because it was a football school. So only 1 lot of egg chasers, Dean. So it was very much football orientated. But you can see there, that's our first team pitch, and it was just one of those places, it was just such a calm, serene setting. Very different from being in a stadium environment. Liverpool Football Club. Back into it again, walked away from a lovely, calm environment, straight into the thick of looking after one of the top Premiership pitches, in the Premier League pitches. And yeah, my first job, literally as I walked through the door in 2016, we were redesigning the pitch, so it had to go for a full pitch construction. It hadn't been reconstructed in over 20 years. I actually used to joke that the pitch was more waterproof than my Gore-Tex jacket. The infiltration rates were so bad, 4 millimeters an hour I think we were getting. So, and you know what the UK is like, especially the Northwest, it rains. So every game you're like, oh, got through that one. Very scary. So that was a reconstruction. We were the first club to use the permavoid system underneath it. The pitch itself was a real problem. We had bedrock, so we couldn't lower the pitch to put a proper gravel carpet. So using the permavoid was a good solution for that. Stitched hybrid, undersoil heating, so fairly standard construction. Part of the responsibility as well was the training sites as well. So this is the Liverpool Academy. The Academy site, as you can see, it's pretty big. You'd come in, they have like an aspirational route. So as you come in, you'd come in through the gate as a little 7-year-old. You'd go out into the indoor artificial, do some of your football there. Then as you progress, you'd go through the different age ranges. And right in the far distance, which is the new building, is now the new first team site. So we had a match pitch down here as well, so our under-21s could play their games down there. An outdoor artificial. It's quite a nice setup. So it was a total of, Total of 8 pitches, but you could configure them in different ways. So 8 full-size pitches, but you could end up with 10 or 11 different pitches of different sizes. This was something we started a couple of years into my project. They went, right, Jurgen Klopp wasn't happy with the old Melwood site. It wasn't big enough. Liverpool had been at Melwood since the 1950s, and it's an iconic training ground. It's probably one of the first dedicated training ground complexes for a football team. So they'd been there for a long time, and there's a lot of history. So it was a big decision from the club to move away from Melwood and to move again. So the site here was very interesting. It was almost wasteland. There was a road that ran right through, goes out the other side. So we had to get permission to close one of the roads down, and then the work started. And of course, the work started when COVID started. So one of those ones where it was like really difficult when we were doing this work, how to manage the construction, trying to get materials, as you know, through the COVID period was virtually impossible. We couldn't put a date when we were going to move in, but major difficulties. The kind of nice, but I got really involved with the architects and the coaching staff, and we'd sit down and we'd lay out the pitches how we felt. I gave them an idea of what I thought they might want. They agreed with it, they changed a bit. The goalkeepers wanted a dedicated goalkeeping area, so I worked closely with the head goalkeeping coach to give him exactly what he wanted, because as we know in our world, goalkeepers do more damage than anybody else on the pitch. So trying to give them that was really important. We built our own ground staff area, so we had our own access route. You could drive an Arctic in there, turn it round and go back out again, which was fantastic for doing renovations. The water on this site was really bad. It was borehole water, so we had to have filtration systems to try and take out some of the problems we had with high iron content in there. All the pitches there were hybrid pitches, stitched hybrid pitches. They worked really well. There was an area here. Jurgen Klopp likes paddle tennis, so if anybody has Jurgen Klopp coming to him, the first thing you'll want is paddle tennis courts. So that's his key thing. And Jurgen was a great guy to work with. One of the things he wanted to do, he believed massively in we're one team. So if you wanted to, and I never did it because they were very good, but he'd invite us onto the paddle tennis court to play paddle with them. But yeah, when you watch them play paddle tennis, it's like, there's no way I'm going to embarrass myself by trying to play paddle tennis with them. During my time at Liverpool, one of the things that came out when they had to do these tours, commercial tours, they had to play at different places. So they were never happy with a lot of the venues they went to. So I ended up being pulled out of Liverpool to go off overseas to look at the venues, to see what we could do. We were picking training pitches that we thought would suit them. The stadiums we couldn't do much about because the stadiums are the stadiums, and we had to go into so many of the stadiums where NFL grounds or baseball grounds, which we had to convert to being natural grass, and most of them were artificial or turfing over baseball diamonds. It was horrible. You should go out there, and I could give them good training facilities, but I couldn't change the stadium. The stadiums were not nice. They were lay and play on top of, quite often, literally the turf is laid straight on top of the artificial turf. It's like walking on a sponge. The ball doesn't bounce. So it's not what they expected, but they knew they had to do these tours because of the commercial partners. So when we got there, I think we've got Michigan Big House, which is an incredible stadium, and then we've got Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, that's North Carolina Panthers, Where was that? I think that one must be Notre Dame. And that's MetLife. And then the last one I ended up going to, which was Qatar. This was just before the World Cup. So this was in the Club World Cup, and we had to go over there to make sure that we had a decent training facility out there as well. But that gave me quite an insight into, I was very UK focused as a grounds manager. You see the UK problems, you see what the challenges are, you deal with it, and then you go overseas and you meet people and you see their challenges, climatic problems, political problems, budget problems, and it just suddenly opens your doors to like, wow, the world is big, and there's a lot of the problems are the same, but a lot of them are very different as well. So I came out of Liverpool and decided I needed a change of direction. I'm getting a little bit older now, so I was like, I've learned quite a bit. So I started to build my own training courses. So I delivered quite a few training courses across the UK and a couple into Europe as well. It was kind of nice because I went to live in Portugal. I could deliver my training courses. We could sit in front of a laptop. I could talk to 10 people or so. I called it around underpinning knowledge, so it was looking around ground staff that knew how to do the job but wanted to learn more about it. So a lot of these training courses were focused on giving people more skills to analyse the problems. So I used to say to grounds managers, ideally what I want your groundsmen to do is when they're out mowing a pitch or repairing a pitch and they see something that's not right, I want them to think, why is that not right? And I want them to go through their head and come to you and go, I've seen a problem, I think it could be this, and this is what I think is a solution. Because so many times you go to a venue and the groundsman just mowing a pitch, and you walk on the pitch and it's full of disease and you go, why didn't you say anything? I didn't know. And then all of a sudden it costs you a fortune in things. But I think for me it was trying to empower people and try and build training courses that would allow people to spot problems, deal with problems quicker and look at solutions. I got to work in Portugal with some of the local teams over there as well, so helping out. We had quite a few European teams who would come over for winter training or for summer pre-season training. The Algarve's nice and sunny, so almost too hot to grow ryegrass, but we could just about do it. And then people were asking me for consultancy as well, so I got to get out a few different places. Helped out with the English FA and done a little bit of work with FIFA as well. I'll go on to this in a few minutes now. This is a conversation that we were saying when we were looking at challenges that groundspeople face across Europe, and not just across Europe, across the rest of the world. In the UK, we've been spoiled, and I think America's not bad and Australia's not bad. There's really established pathways for people to get into being groundsmanship. There's training courses to back it up. There's networking to help support people. But many other places in the world, that just doesn't seem to happen. An interim period, I was asked by, I don't know if anywhere can recognise where this place is. It's Kazakhstan, and I've never been to such a more remote place in the world as Kazakhstan. This was asked to go out, and this is an Olympic training centre, so to do a grow-in with flex grass over in Kazakhstan. Incredible place to work. People were incredible. The whole site was being built by a Swiss company. They were partnered with an Albanian company. We had workforces coming from Kazakhstan, from India. The running track was being laid by Belarusians. The Ukrainian was doing the line marking. Americans were coming to set up some of the sports equipment. So it's one of these places where you meet so many different nationalities in one venue. Difficult place to grow grass. I was shocked at the extremes of temperature. You go plus 43 in the summer to minus 39 in the winter, and then through the winter period they could be easily covered with a metre of snow for about 6 months. So yeah, not an easy place to grow grass. Currently, I sort of said to you guys, I've gone to Olympic Marseille. It's went there temporarily just to help out for a couple of months, and then it's extended again at the moment. I don't know if anybody knows the Marseille Stadium, but it is a challenging stadium. And the fans are quite passionate as well. They do like their football. So just doing a little summary. So these are some of the places I've worked. So as my career's gone on, it's kind of like grown a little bit. St Mary's Stadium, then moving over to Anfield, and now at the Velodrome. So as you can see, my career's gone on. I've been lucky enough to work at bigger and bigger venues. You can see with the Velodrome as well, it's a challenging. So I've tried to get the angles about the same camera angles looking on there, but you can see definitely some of the challenges there with the Velodrome. Obviously, we know the biggest problem growing grass in a stadium is light and airflow. St Mary's was kind of lucky, 17.5 metre high stands. Anfield varied, each stand was a different height. The Kop end, which was the south end, was 30 metres, and then the main stand, the new main stand they built, was 50 metres high. So it casts quite a big shadow on the pitch. And the Velodrome is 44 metres on the side and 55 metres on either wing. And it's complete wrap round, so actually the corners of the pitch, if you kick the ball directly up, you'd hit the roof and it would come back down again. So it covers the corners of the roof, actually cover the pitch, which is, as you guys will know, is challenging. So like most of you guys, we use different growing aids. We've got ventilators to try and keep an airflow going across the pitch. We saw the Bernard ones on the other side of the pitch here. And we've got the grow lights. We're lucky enough, Marseille have supported us, so we now have 12 of the SGL grow lights on the pitch, 6 of the old LU440s and 6 new the LED 440s. So we're doing just over, it looks like it's the whole pitch there, but it's just over half the pitch that we're doing with the lights. That obviously brings its own management, trying to work underneath the lights, move the lights, mow, water, fertilise. It becomes very, very difficult. But ultimately, that's what we're looking for. There's a man who's happy in his job. I mean, that was the Velodrome in January last year. So it's like, I don't know we'll have a condition quite like that this year. It's one of those ones where, as a groundsman, very, very few days when you go, I'm actually really happy with the pitch. But that was one of them, so I took a picture of it, because normally all we do is moan about the pitches. So very quick summary, and I'll flip through this quite quickly. So I've been lucky enough to say, I keep saying I'm lucky enough, but I have been lucky. The career's been great. I know you make your own luck, but I have had the opportunity to work in many different places. Some of the training courses I've delivered have been to Arsenal, Wembley, Watford, Ipswich, Crystal Palace. So some of the prestigious clubs have had some of my training courses as well, and they're great guys. So I like the UK for that. We're very open, we talk to each other, and I think that's fantastic. Work with different teams, some in Europe, some when I was in Portugal, some when we've been in America, and some of the experiences, some of the places I've worked across the world as well. So I won't stay on that too long because there's a lot to read, and probably on the screens you might struggle. So what have I learned? I think this is the key thing, and I think one of the key things, I'm talking to you guys today and I'm listening to conversations, listening to the speakers. One of the big problems we have is that our industry, our skill set, quite often isn't recognised, even by our own employers. We are quite often just seen to be gardeners. And I don't know how to change that. I'd like to think that we can change that. But it's a real shame that if you want your plumbing fixed, you have to bring a plumber in. If you want your electrics fixed, you bring an electrician in. These guys are skilled. We're skilled. You can't just get a gardener to make a stadium pitch. There's a whole series of skills there, but how we convey that to everybody else is a real challenge. Yeah, we were just talking about the skills there. Training and mentoring, I think that's something I've seen again. It's great, and a lot of places I've worked with, people are so keen to understand how your brain works, what you're doing, how do you do that, how did you come to that decision? So trying to mentor people, I think, is these kind of things I think are really important. And we're trying to find support as well. And I think that any of you guys know that if you've had a really bad game, and weather's been against you, they've had run 2 or 3 fixtures, the pitch is backwards, the temperatures are cold, it's raining, there's no light, and you're expected to produce a perfect pitch for the next game. Sometimes being a groundsman can be the loneliest place in the world. And sometimes it's so difficult to have a network where you can reach out and go, oh, do you know what? I'm struggling. I'll pick up the phone or I'll WhatsApp one of my colleagues. And they go, you're struggling as well? God, so am I. And all of a sudden you've got that bit of camaraderie and you can put your arms around each other's shoulders and go, do you know what? I feel better now. Well, no, at least I'm not the only one that's suffering it. I don't think this is going to work, but I was going to try and do a poll on here, but the software that I've got on my laptop doesn't work on the other laptop. But if you want to try, try and scan the QR code, and let's see, I've got my laptop parked around the corner, so I might have to have a look at that just to pick up. But hopefully it'll work. Hopefully you get onto Slido. This is a moment of truth. Technology. Is it working, not coming up? Ah, typical. It's probably disconnected on my laptop. Yeah, computer said no, I heard that. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. What I wanted to do, I've just told you my views of what I think are the challenges that we face as an industry across Europe, across the rest of the world. I was just going to do a poll there to see if you guys felt what you felt was some of the biggest challenges. I don't think the poll's going to come up. That whole idea was technology would have worked. We'd have had a ranking thing going across there. We could actually see which of you thought was the most biggest problem. But I don't know if we can do it with a show of hands. But let's start. I'm trying to remember all the questions because they would have all come up on there, or they would have come up on your phone. What do you guys think? What do you think is some of the biggest challenges we face as groundsmen in our industry? Or just put a hand up and shout it out. Yeah. Disease? Yeah, and it's a big one. I think something I've been thinking about the other day. But disease is a huge issue in Europe. Many countries have now lost active ingredients completely. So cultural control becomes the paramount one. And some of the speakers today have been really interesting about how we identify things better. One of the things I kind of like, so I'm going off topic here a little bit. One of the things I kind of like, I've been seeing like Mika Woods and kind of following him on LinkedIn. And he's been going over for, I think it's the last 5 years, maybe longer than that, going over to, I think it's Denmark, to the Scandinavian countries. And he does his fungal walk, because they've now gone 15 years with no active ingredients to control diseases. And I read an article he was saying that the first 5 years were horrible. Disease just ran, and then the grass sort of got its resilience back. And although they still get outbreaks of the diseases, 15 years on, the outbreaks of diseases are relatively small compared to the diseases that they're seeing. So one of the things they talk about there, and I like this, is they talk about doing study groups. So people get together, we compare notes. We don't accuse them, his pitch is rubbish, mine's much better. It's not about that. It's like, why is his not working? Why is mine not working? Let's look at our management. Let's look at our maintenance. Let's work out how we do that. Dean, when he was with Natural Grass, Dean did a big study on pericularia and cultural control because it's a real problem. We introduced a few control practices on there, and it made a huge difference. The disease was there, but we confined it to one area. It didn't spread across the pitch. We tried to manage moisture content. But yeah, that's one. I've waffled a bit. Anybody else got anything? Yeah, Paul?
Budgets and renovation time in short.
Yeah. The big challenge, I think, is our bosses, our lords and masters, will squeeze the asset as much as possible. So, I'm lucky enough I started in '94, and I had a 12-week window to which to do my renovations. The good example of that will now be Marseille. We get a 7-day window, if we're lucky, to strip the pitch, turf it, stitch it, and play a first game on it. But that is a big challenge. But for the industry itself, do you guys feel that there's enough support? Is there enough communication? An event like this is brilliant because I see everybody networking, I see people talking, people who don't know each other, who have never met before, really get together and talk things through. I think that's really interesting. But anything else? Okay, we'll move on a little bit. But one of the things that I sat down with a few other groundsmen at one of the turf business summits, and we were talking it through. And we just seemed to see that there's many things that aren't quite right. And how do we try and do this? Training and mentoring around the world is a challenge. Trying to find support for sports turf managers. So we sat down and and it's still in its infancy, and that's why I really wanted to try and involve you guys to see if it's something that's got legs and is going to really get moving, or is it something that isn't going to work yet. we sat down and we came up with ISTMA. So kind of simple, International Sports Turf Managers Association. So it's not trying to be all-encompassing. It's not like telling people this is how you do your job. But it was more about finding a way of supporting, communicating, how we can exchange, sharing ideas, education, networking, study groups, trying to work through that. So we tried to design it as an organisation by sports turf professionals for sports turf professionals to help global sports turf professionals by sharing knowledge, ideas, experiences, and just working together, communication. So we set up, my head would come up with 3 core aims. So we're looking at sharing the global experiences. How do we do that? How do we share our experiences? How do we put that together so that other people can benefit? We've already got a few training courses. We've got a few more that we're working on at the moment. I've used the courses that I did in the UK, and we're building on online training courses. And then how can we provide advice, and not just to sports turf teams and the ground staff managing it, but sometimes to the venue managers, because there's a kind of often you see there's a gap between the groundsman, the team. I quite often say the groundsman. I keep referring to the groundsman. Much of Europe still calls us gardeners, which I think is really demeaning. It sounds really bad. At least if you're a sports turf manager or sports turf professional, it indicates that we're looking after sports turf. We're not cutting hedges, we're not pulling weeds out, we're not doing just general gardening things. Because I think that term gardener can present that you are just a gardener, and then that demeans what we do. We know that to manage sports turf, to provide a surface that needs to be there, we need to raise the bar. It's a specific skill set. You couldn't just put anybody out onto a pitch and have a perfect pitch for a Champions League game. So, yeah, looking at different parts of it. So we're trying to work out how we can do the networking, how we can do the communicating. I feel that the communication one is probably one of the biggest ones. And anybody who wants to talk to me afterward and give me your views, please do. Try and use social media platforms, try and use the online magazine, and doing interviews and trying to chat to people and understand how that works, and listening to someone, having a chat about from the problems they've had in their life, some of the challenges they see coming forward and what they see as solutions, and sharing that out within the group. Going to try and go across as many social media platforms, and there's a lot of different platforms out there, and we want to get out there, but there isn't really one platform I think that everybody uses. I think there was going to be another poll here now, which unfortunately, as we now know, this isn't going to work. But one of the things I wanted to find out, if this is something you guys think is important, we find a way of networking. These events are great, but we all go home, back to our own problems. But if there was a way of communicating, I don't know what the best format is. WhatsApp is good for groups. There's Twitter. There's so many different ways of communicating, but I don't really want to use every single way, because some people use some people use others, and I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. And that's why I was going to pick your brains to see what you felt was the most popular format to do communication. And that was the poll. Moving on again, so with the training ones, we just run through some of the courses. So this one's up and running. If you go on our website, theistma.pro, you'll see there's a level 1 short course. We've tried to do this as anybody that knows what they're doing will probably be able to complete the course in about 3 hours. So it's kind of simple, but somebody that's just come into sports turf that really doesn't know, might have cut the lawn before or been gardening somewhere, they've now got an opportunity to work in a stadium or a training ground. It was to give them those levels and try and boost what they needed. How are we doing for time, guys? Just see Florian walking down there. Then we got the long course, which is coming up, and that's nearly live now. That's going to be a lot more in depth. And if you guys have been working with me on this, it's got a lot of content in there. I'm actually I don't often blow my own trumpet, but I'm quite proud of this. So this one we got to get into. At the moment, it's a very long document. It's been made into modules so that ultimately people can take a module of it and they don't have to do the whole course. But we're looking at all sorts of things from grow lights, ventilators, managing hybrid pitches, understanding transitioning for people that are having to deal with warm season and cool season. But we've tried to put this all into one package. And the beauty of doing this online is that we can translate into any different language as well. So it doesn't matter if you're not English speaking, you can still do the course. So that's where we're trying to go with it. I'm going to have a long last, and that's still to be written. We've got a venue manager's course already, which is loosely based on the short course level 1, but to try and give the venue manager an opportunity to understand what it is that we do and the skill set required to do it. And you can't just shout at someone and say, make that pitch better. Understand some of the process that they need to do. And we can also write bespoke training courses as well. Trying to find ways of this as we go back to the communication. How do we mentor and how do we do that? I mean, I've done it for a few clubs in Europe where I've spent time on phone calls with people, chatted through problems, and it's kind of nice to be that mentor when somebody goes, oh, I've got a problem with my pitch and I don't know what to do. It's kind of nice just to chat them through it and go, can you just break it down? I call it turf triage. Like when you go to a hospital, they ask you, what's your pain level like? How bad is it? But it's a similar kind of thing. You just break it down and try and understand what the problem is and see if you can solve the little problems and get to a final solution. And consultancy as well, with people, my friends and colleagues who are consultants anyway. Something we're looking as well as we move forward is a trust ISTMA. So this is where if people want to say that they feel a product, a service is good and really works and recommend it, then we could try and put it into the trust ISTMA where people can say, do you know what? Let's give that one a go. Because no disrespect to salespeople, but there's a lot of salesmen going in there with some very good products, and there's a lot of salesmen going in there with some very bad products. And sometimes it's very difficult to understand what's good and what's just sales bullshit. So that kind of thing. So that's where Trust ISTMA came in there. So that's a little bit, that's my contact details on there. I'm going to screenshot it or speak to me after this. It's just thinking, I don't know, again, I don't know what feeling in the room. Is this something that you guys think we need, or am I wasting my time on this? Oh, it sounds like I'm wasting my time. No, I don't know. I'm going to say I've seen so many people I've spoken to, different countries say that they like the GMA, but it doesn't exist in Europe. It doesn't exist. And I know some countries are starting to set up their own grounds managers associations, and I think that's really, really good. And one other thing, I'm not saying I want to create a grounds manager that stands out and it's different from everybody else. I think what we'd like to do is share information. So if there's a Spanish groundskeepers, a Belgian groundskeepers, a Czech groundskeepers, well, we just share the knowledge, what people are finding their challenges are, what they're finding their problems are, some of the solutions they got. We share with other people that haven't yet got a grounds association. Yeah, it's professional. It's pushed towards professional sports. So, yeah, that's the key. That's the key thing. It's people at work doing what we do, looking after training grounds, looking after stadiums, and even some of we've got quite a few patrons on board already that are kind of keen to back us because one, it opens the door that they can potentially get new customers, but two, they can help support. So the money that comes in, one of the key things we want to do is try and find ways of. We call it a rough diamond. So if you've got somebody you know in your team who has no opportunity for training and isn't earning a lot of money, but would really, really has that thirst for knowledge, then the patrons will pay for the training course so that they can come through out the other end and they get the training course for virtually free as a sponsor thing. We think that's a really good way of pushing it forward. And we know some of the colleagues have worked in Africa and India and other parts of the world where pay is incredibly different for what we get. We might not think we get rewarded enough, and they really don't. But their thirst for knowledge is huge, but they can't afford to do the training. So if we can subsidise training for them, we help the other countries develop and hopefully have better groundsmen as well. So just a quick summary. It's time for food. So just say, for me, it's the importance of, I feel it's importance of collaboration. I think it's really, really key. Trying to find ways of opportunities for innovation, sharing, learning. A vision for a new organisation to try and be inclusive, and promote practical ideas and forward thinking. We've got a lot of challenges. Climate's been talked about, disease has been talked about. There's a lot of challenges, and we honestly don't know how that is going to affect us in the future. But we know it's not going to be easier for us. Paul was saying the windows for renovations and doing work on anyway has been squeezed smaller and smaller, and we're more at risk from diseases and climate challenges when we go into those smaller windows. And you say, for me, I don't want it to be David Roberts ISTMA. I want it to be our organisation. So I'm trying to find something that we all can help. And if there's something you feel strongly about and passionately about, let's try and see if we can introduce that into the organisation. So just kind of final thoughts, really. What would you want from a new organisation? What challenges do you think we could solve together? And can we make a community that's really valuable to you? So that's my presentation. Thank you for listening. Good to see a few more faces in the room now. So thank you.